I did learn a lot from this week's reading. I am in a community college class, so a lot of the material that was presented this week, I already knew. Um, so it wasn't anything shocking for me to learn about. It was interesting, however, for me to look back on material that was presented and see how my perspective or filter differed. So how I view or approach material now, how it differs from how I approached it then. So I've mentioned that I'm going to school for my CASAC, so I do understand the importance of setting clear boundaries with clients, which isn't mentioned in chapter 2, which is something that I feel is imperative or relatively important to this chapter. Um, I do understand the importance of going to therapy. I understand the importance of making sure that you are aware of your personal issues. I understand the importance of knowing that your own personal issues can affect your client and can cause countertransference within the therapist relationship with the client. Um, I do or I did take an ethics class, so I was aware of different perspectives, such as the essentialism perspective. I did learn about that. I wasn't aware of certain ethical decision making models that were presented in chapter 1. I did enjoy learning about them, and I specifically liked learning about Kenyon's model or Kenyon's ethical decision making model that he presented within his chapter that was given to us for a reading. I do think that these models are important, and I think it provides us with the opportunity to go through situations and to work through situations more ethically. Um, One question that was answered though that I didn't know previously was that I didn't know that counselors needed to go to therapy consistently, or it's recommended for consistent therapy. And I found that this week it could be effective and it should be used for therapy for therapists because it helps them to have more awareness of their own personal issues sometimes. There were not a lot of questions that bothered me, and there weren't a lot of questions that challenged me. Um, the only aspect that I found a little bit weird was the wording. So there were a couple of questions that I just didn't like the wording of. So for instance, so I feel as a counselor, if you are having strong feelings about a client, then you should profit from personal therapy. Obviously, for most people, yes, they would benefit from personal therapy. I just didn't like the wording. Another answer that I didn't like the wording was um, real therapy does not occur unless transfer relationships are developed. Transference is really common, more common than I realized before actually reading through this chapter and learning this material again. But it doesn't lead to a healthy relationship. Um, Something I learned about myself is that I need to practice my own self-awareness. Um, I do value knowing how you feel and introspection. I think that in general, there are areas of my life that I can improve on. I noticed that throughout this week. I think that a lot of times I am so passionate about defending people and so passionate about representing the people that don't have voices or people that may not always have a chance that I get lost in that aspect and forget to understand the value of knowing how I feel about an issue versus knowing how the other person feels about an issue and not taking on their own feelings, if that makes sense. I do understand and I do take into account the moments that I have projected my own past feelings onto a person in my own personal relationships, and making sure that I take accountability of that is important to me. And I think that those are things that I could work on after reading through this chapter is something that I felt like I could definitely use some improvement. Some deeper questions this exercise generated was, is being a therapist going to produce more mental health problems for me in the future? And would it be easier for someone who has mental health problems to come work with clients versus someone who doesn't have any mental health problems? This field wants you to be aware of your own personal problems and conflicts, which I do completely agree with. However, this is not something that is going to happen all the time. There should be certain tools that are given to help people out, and make them more aware of their issues. Obviously, there's therapy. In the reading, there's mention of experimental learning, which allows students to share values, life experience, and personal concern. This is a great tool, but there's no mention about supporting the individuals who have no connection or to how they feel. Again, this I think would be a great tool to invest in, but thank you for watching.